Yeah. Got it.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim Arn. Today is episode 99. And today we're going to be interviewing Jim. How are you doing this afternoon, Jim?
I'm very good. Happy to be here today, Jim.
We're going to be going back and forth, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
Jim.
yeah.
But yeah, let's get started and dive in. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about growing up.
So, my childhood from the outside may have been a regular childhood growing up in the 70s. I was born in 1970. I guess the thing, I thought it was normal, but there wasn't a lot of abuse, like physical abuse. For me, it was a lot of like my parents drank, and my grandparents and all my cousins, everybody in the family that I knew I know now were alcoholics. And for me, my dad left when I was 6. So it was just me and my mom until she passed away in 2000. But so she was a single mom raising me on her own. She worked usually about 3 jobs at a time. So I was always alone. And right from a young age, I was always either I was at babysitters' places or just being bounced around. At an early age, I used to have to take the transit bus from West End, Winnipeg to downtown by myself, unsupervised. And I attribute that kind of stuff to some of my anxiety issues today.
Was that a rough neighborhood? I'm not too familiar with Canada.
Oh, no, it wasn't really a rough neighborhood where I was coming from, but going downtown and having to, it was about at least an hour and 15-minute bus ride, like a transit ride for me. And being a little kid at like 6, 7, I was always worried about missing my stops and this kind of stuff. So a lot of my anxiety today comes from that. But as I got a little older, say around 8 is when my active addiction, I guess, started. Because my mom,
that's young, 8 years old.
Yeah. I look at April's son today, he's 9, and I think like I had already started drinking by that age.
That's crazy.
It just, yeah, it wasn't full time, but it was regular enough that as my mom came up with a solution that I had a babysitter at home, but I was kind of an unruly child because I had a lot of separation anxiety, I guess you could call it. I used to have convulsions when she would take off, and just, I don't know if it was anger or just stress, and sometimes it would get the better of me and I would go into convulsions, basically like a seizure, just from the whatever it was. So my mom decided that she would allow the babysitter to medicate me with wine.
No shit.
So yeah, and I don't blame my mom. You know, she, back in the 70s, I think that, I don't know if medicating with wine was a common practice, but you know, dads would drink small amounts of beer or whatever. So I don't know, I don't blame her. She did the best she could. with what she had. She worked for the Royal Bank. So she worked long hours. She would have to drive an hour one way and then work 9, 10 hours, whatever it was, and then drive home. So it was a long day for her. And I needed someone there after school or whatever at nights because she worked a night job as well. So yeah, then I didn't know it at the time, but I was probably predisposed to alcoholism and later drug abuse. But so by the time I don't know, 10, 11, we had moved. She had bought a house when I was 11, so I was in a new school and still drinking.
Real quick,
Now by this time,
that was gonna be a question for me. At such a
oh
young age, how often did you drink? So you were drinking at 8, but was it like you were drinking every day? Was it once a week, once a month?
no, when it first started, it was probably a couple times a week, and it wasn't me wanting it. It was just a way to cool me down, to get me to calm down, to go to sleep, kind of that kind of thing. And then like and then right, and my mom, so this is I guess rewind a little bit. My mom worked for the bank, so they used to party a lot as well. And a lot of times, like when I used to take the transit bus to work, I would be there in the basement of the bank. They'd be drinking and partying and whatever. And then I was hanging out with adults all the time that were drinking. So I was trying to, because my mom was happy at those times. So I guess I was trying to uh, make her happy or whatever. And they had me bartending drinks at a young age. I would be sneaking, the odd beer here and there or shots. And it was just a way for me to feel like an adult, because to me, that's what seemed to make my mom happy, right? Just to be around adults. So I was trying to appease her and while she was off partying or whatever.
So did you drink in front of her? Did she know you were drinking?
No, not at that age. Not at that age. Fast forward a little bit till I was about what? Fast forwarding to when I was about 11. That's when I kind of started not drinking with her or in front of her, but she knew by this point that I had an alcohol problem, because in grade 6, I think I was, me and a friend from the school I was in, and she was away all the time. She was at work. So I basically raised myself for a long time. And a friend of mine went back to my place at lunchtime, and we were drinking straight Bacardi rum and CC whiskey. And then we tried to go back to school, and we were just polluted. And they just sent me home to my empty home, where I went home and I got violently ill. Like I could have probably died from alcohol poisoning. And I feel back then like nobody wanted to be involved. The guidance counselor was the person, and the principal was the one that sent me home. And throughout my whole life, I feel like I've always fallen through the cracks in that way. Like there was a lot of times, even my mom, like I was gonna say, by this time she knew I was drinking, and I would come home, after curfew or whatever, and I would have bottles of beer falling out of my jacket, and she would just tuck them away, uh, and not say anything. One time she threw an AA pamphlet at me and said, "You need help, and you're just like your father," and I didn't know my father, so that kind of got under my skin and fed the fire, I guess. Um, I forgot what I was gonna say there now. She when we moved into this new place, she went to get uh benefits or private insurance, I guess. And the insurance adjusters at that time would come to your house and you would do your little thing. And then they wanted to talk to me privately without my mom there. And they told me, okay, so we're gonna ask you a few questions. We want you to be truthful. Uh, tell us everything. And they started asking me about drugs and alcohol, and my responses to those questions, they denied my mom her insurance because they asked me how often do I drink, and at that time it was 2, 3, 4 times a week, and if I smoked drugs, I was already uh, smoking pot every day. Not too much longer. I think I was about 13. I started into coke, just snorting coke. Yeah, it was and for me, like, it was very lonely. I've always been kind of a loner that way. Um, I didn't know how, when I was really young and have to go, my mom would send me to a small town where her sister lived. And like when you first get somewhere, the greetings, like the hugs and the kisses and all that used to cause me a lot of anxiety. Um, Not that I didn't want to be there, it's just we didn't show affection. We didn't talk in our family on a regular basis. And to me, it was always just kind of fake. And same when we were leaving, those times created a lot of anxiety for me. Um, so now, like by the time, fast forwarding a little bit, uh, I was already snorting coke and stuff by 13, and I was a career alcoholic by that point. Like I was drinking every day, and I've always been high functioning. Like I didn't graduate high school, but uh I made it to grade 11, and um no, I'm stuck. um right. And I used to use every day, like in high school. uh I used to use a lot of acid and mushrooms. I used to go to class uh high on acid, and I used to drive a lot too, which is something I'm not really proud of. Um, like downtown Winnipeg, just anywhere really, and I'm surprised I never killed anybody. It's something that used to weigh heavy on me, but uh, I've kind of dealt with that stuff through the recovery process. But so, and then in high school, uh, I got more involved with coke. using every other day for sure, but then starting using crack and stuff. And we used to party at my mom's place because again, she was always gone. And then when I was 18, that was the first time I was arrested for, and just a misdemeanor now, I guess it was just for possession of hash. And then I was working a new job, and one of the guys there, he was moving out to BC. I said, "Oh, can I come with you?" This is at 18. And yeah, sure. So we drove out. We were staying at a buddy of his girlfriend, and for the first 6 months we were just kind of visiting around, driving around, but I got really involved with crack there. Like my crack addiction just exploded. And for a month I lived on a there's a place there called Wreck Beach by UBC. I lived there for a month homeless. I used to be on East Hastings once in a while. Oh, I don't know,
Was East
3, 4
Hastings?
months on and off.
Were you sleeping on the
Pardon
streets?
me?
Where were you
Yeah,
sleeping on the streets? What's East Hastings? Is that an area in town?
that's a core area in downtown Vancouver. There's a lot of homeless people there. It's kind of weaved in with like the rich people, right? So there's a lot of people asking for money and stuff, and just hardcore down and out people down there. I wasn't uh I've never used IV or anything like that, but I just had nowhere to go. The people I was staying with, we had rented a place in Burnaby, and it was just too expensive. It was the places there were much too expensive. So anyways, that was my first taste of homelessness. So I moved back to Winnipeg, and it was just much of the same. I lived with my mom for the first little while when I got back, and then I had found a job as a bartender where my alcoholism kind of took off because I was pouring as many drinks for myself as for other people. And then I moved to Brandon at one point. It's a city in Manitoba, but it's just a bit smaller than Winnipeg.
Well, going back, you were homeless at one point. Did you eventually find housing? You said you moved. Did you just move to a different area
Well,
of town?
yeah, I kind of would stay where I was living prior to that once in a while if I needed to. They just didn't, because I was so involved with drugs and stuff, they just didn't want me around, right? So I would go back once in a while. And I was working at this time too, but I was spending my checks faster than I could get them. So, I might a week or two at a time. And then eventually I just said, well, enough's enough. And my mom bought me a bus ticket home. So I stayed with her for a while.
How old were you at this point?
About 18, 19.
So still really young.
Yeah. So then I moved to Falcon Lake and I got a job at a hotel as a bartender, like I said, and my alcoholism really took off and I was still using, and uh I never really got involved in opiates and stuff, thankfully. Um,
Let me ask you
but
this
then
question. Let me ask you this. Did you get a job at the bar on purpose, or was it like the only position they had available?
no, they were looking for bartenders, and I thought it would have been a great job for me because I was a career alcoholic by that time, and yeah, I kind of set myself up uh that way. It was intentionally I applied there for that reason. And it didn't last very long, a couple of years, and it was a all year round job, so I had to work through the winter, which was pretty slow and uh not isolated, but there wasn't a lot of people around, so all there was really to do was drink. And the bar was usually slow, so I would be pouring myself drinks and smoking crack. So eventually I got fired from that job. It was a May long weekend, and we were the hotel manager lived in a small town not far from where we worked, and we were drinking there all night, scotch, and I wanted to go to the May long weekend social, so we hopped in my truck, and because it was a provincial park, the RCMP manned the gates and just checked people out um, on their way in. And so I drove past the gates about a mile and then I just drove through the ditch, but they saw me do that. So they, uh, they followed me to the social and arrested me there for, a DUI, but I refused to blow. So that was an automatic admission of guilt. I think the screens. Oh no.
So it's an automatic
Um,
admission of guilt when you say no.
yes. Yeah. So spent the night in jail for that, sobered up, and then because I wasn't allowed to be in the park anymore, I lost my job. So again, I went back to my mom's. Not for long. At this point I couldn't stay with my mom very often,
Why is that?
or for too long. Well, just because I had been on my own, and I just couldn't follow rules, and we would argue and bicker, and I would get drunk, and I never physically abused her, but I'm sure I verbally abused her and let her know how I feel, and I could only be honest with her if I was drunk.
Hmm.
Um, and so anyways, after that, I moved to Brandon, which is a smaller city than Winnipeg, but and there I started to uh, started dealing a little bit of coke. Uh, so again,
Isn't crack just cocaine cooked up? I'm not actually too
yes,
familiar with that.
yeah, crack is just it's called freebasing, I guess. Like you just cook it up, and yeah. Um, so I did that for a while, and then I ended up going to jail for 3 months again for possession of just oil, like cannabis oil.
And they sent you away for 3 months
Um,
for that?
yeah, well, we had some coke, uh, and there was an automatic weapon there, but there was no ammunition for it. So the coke charge was on my other friend that I was with at the time, and he did 2 years for the coke. So anyways, moving forward, a lot like from probably late teens, every day was about drinking or getting high, or just so after I got out of jail again, I went back to my mom's, and then hmm? And then I met my ex-wife, probably, and my ex-wife now, I guess, in 19, I don't even know, 99. And by this time in hang on, in 1997, I had quit all hard drugs and alcohol, and I just continued to smoke pot. I wasn't doing any acid or mushrooms or anything like that.
Why did you decide to
And
quit?
well, I didn't like the way I was when I was drinking, because I would black out, and I wasn't violent, but I just didn't like the way I was. Nobody liked to be around me, and my mom also got sick. She was diagnosed with renal cancer. So she went to the specialist, and then that evening they were operating on her. So when I went home, I was just beside myself. I couldn't, even though we didn't get along very much, I still loved her like my mother, and she was all I had throughout my whole life. And that was probably the first time that I said, if you can, please God, if you can help me quit drinking or whatever, or keep her safe or whatever, I'll quit drinking. So I quit. She had her operation, and then she was okay. She lost the use of her legs because the cancer was growing cysts on her spine and stuff, and so that went on for about 4 years. And in the meantime, I had met my now ex-wife. We had one son who was born a month after my mom had passed away in 2000. And through all of that, I continued to stay what I called sober at that time, just smoking pot. And then fast forward 20 years, just smoking pot, staying away from alcohol. I started a business in 2010 with construction business. Oh, and somewhere along the way there, I got my journeyman ticket in carpentry.
Well, real quick, going back to the 20 years,
Yep.
what point did you say back then? Because you said you were sober, quote unquote, but were you in recovery? Were you like living a good life? Did you have goals set and things like that? How was explain our recovery to you? I mean, to us.
Well, I wasn't in what I would call recovery now. I was kind of I kept my addiction alive using pot. I didn't know that then. And I was like one of those white knucklers. I had never dealt with any of my childhood trauma issues. Like, uh, I didn't even know I had trauma until I went to treatment, uh, later on, like abandonment issues and neglect and, uh, just being exposed to all that stuff as a child. I didn't realize that that was trauma. I always thought trauma was like a train wreck or something horrific like that. Um, so I had never dealt with anything like that. I had to do 6 months of AA mandated by the courts when I got my DUI. And I was I was like, this isn't for me. I can't do this because, I'm not a God-fearing person. I don't like the way and my first meeting, I identified as a drug addict. And um, at AA back then, they didn't really want drug addicts in their meetings. It was for hardcore alcoholics who wanted to quit drinking, and they let you, like, they don't say it specifically, but you feel that from the energy in the room. So I got completely away from AA. That turned my nose up at that the first time I went, but I had to go for 6 months just because of the courts. And then as soon as I was done, so uh, I I started my own business in 2010. Things were going really well for the first couple of years. Uh, and then my wife and my ex-wife and I were having issues. Uh, Things kind of started falling apart. And then in 2014, uh, I started my relapse, I guess you could say. And one day I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go and buy a couple of bottles of red wine because I used to really like wine, some reason. Um, and then after my first bottle of wine, I bought an 8 ball of Coke, and then uh, that went on
The
for
wine, I
six.
guess the wine triggered your addiction that you just like didn't care anymore.
Right, right. And as soon as I started drinking, I wanted to get high. And that went on for, I don't know, 3, 4 years. And then, and all the while, like I worked, my business went bankrupt in 2015 for various reasons. And I'm sure one of them was because I was using, but um, the whole time I was always working. Even after my business went bankrupt, I was still working, 12-hour days, uh, and using all the time. I wasn't so much drinking all the time, but my crack addiction just went through the roof again. And then uh, at one point, this would have been about 2016, I guess, I got turned onto meth, and then it was all over from there. Like, uh, I remember saying one time, as shortly after I got started in meth, as I could just feel that I was going to go to jail. I don't know what it was. And at this point, I was living in Brandon, and making about 4 grand a month, and I was living in my car, uh, probably already for a year at that point. And making $4,000 a month, living in my car, and all that money I was making was going to drugs, crack, meth. And then in 2019, I was arrested for I think it was just a routine traffic stop or something. But I was dealing at this point too. I was dealing meth, not on a large scale by any means, but and I was kind of a middleman too for people. Like if they wanted something, I would find it for them or whatever. And I was working all day for a construction company, and then by night I was kind of a courier for drug people. And so I went to jail. I was for 5 months, and the week before my son's 18th birthday, is when I went to jail and started doing. I thought my lawyer told me that I was going to be doing 2 or 3 years for what I was charged with, and I had a bunch of breaches. And finally, I just said, "Fuck it, I'm just going to stay in jail." Every time I get out, I add more time with breaches and that kind of stuff. And the last time was a week before my son's birthday, and like today we're in a good place, but at that point he hated me. He thought it was him. Why was I, why can't you just quit all that stuff? And my daughter too, she tore a strip off me. I phoned both of them one night, just I was gonna turn myself in, and they both just tore a strip off me. And today we're good. I still struggle with the things that I've done to them, not intentionally. But so my recovery journey, I guess, started a couple months after I was released. And when I was released, I had $500 in my pocket, and the first thing I did was went straight to my meth dealer's place. So even incarceration and 5 months clean from everything wasn't enough to keep me clean and sober. So I ended up, I was living in an emergency shelter. I had no place to go. I was on conditions, and the place that I'd given the courts to reside didn't pan out for me. So I was scrambling the first few days to find a place. So I ended up in like an emergency shelter, and I stayed there for a couple months. And one day I just woke up, and I was done. I was so tired. I was exhausted just from I had spent 35 plus years in addiction, and I was just tired. I couldn't go on anymore. So my ex-wife has a friend that was a counselor in AFM, which is Addictions Foundation of Manitoba. So I contacted her, and at the same time, I went to the Addictions Foundation. What do you call that? Intake. Oh no, when you go to the front office. Anyway, I went and talked to them there, and normally it takes a few months or at least a month or two to get an intake date, to get a bed date. But I needed to get in right away, otherwise I don't know where I'd be today. But so anyway, I got in the following Monday. This is like 4 days later. I started my first round of treatment April 3rd of 2019. 21-day treatment program, yeah. And I was like a small child, just not knowing what was going to happen, what to expect. And my anxieties were through the roof. And the one lady that did my intake when on the first day, like I needed to know what to expect. So she was trying her best to tomorrow you're gonna wake up and you're gonna have to go to program and this kind of stuff, and dinner, breakfast is at whatever time, 9 o'clock, I think it was. Yeah, I was just like a small child.
I remember going to rehab. I had the same feeling where it was like being taught how to do normal things all over again.
Exactly. I had no idea how to and that was my biggest fear, like how am I gonna do this without drugs? Like you have
Yeah.
to learn how to live everything again, like everything I did, I was high when I did it. When I just backing up for a second, when I was arrested and was incarcerated, they I was 145 pounds, and they said I was so dehydrated, I was lucky to be alive. With meth, like you don't eat, and if I was to have a glass of water, it might be one every 3-4 months. And I was addicted to meth for three plus years. And yeah, and my face was all sunk in. My hair was all crazy like Don King. So yeah, so treatment was a savior, really, like, and I'm sure it is for everyone. And the first day, maybe the second day I was there, I had already booked a bed date for my next round of treatment, because at that point I knew I really wanted to stop using, and I knew I knew enough to know that it was going to take more than one round of treatment. So I booked a bed. After my first round, I relapsed a couple times. Like I had one of the scariest things ever I had done was delete all the contacts out of my phone. Because those were the people I used with or I bought from. And it was like, trying to say goodbye to an old friend, like your addiction. It's just, there's no words to explain how that feels. It's just a bottomless pit of loneliness, something, I don't know. So anyways, I forgot that my contacts still had me in their phone, and somebody contacted me and that triggered me right away. I went and used, and but it didn't define me. It didn't take over. I still wanted to be sober. So my next round of treatment, and so because I was my first round of treatment, I was still homeless, other than the the emergency shelter. So one of the guys that was a chef at on the weekends at AFM, he was the housing director for a program called Housing First. So I got connected with him, and through that program, they found me housing, and they set you up, you know, with your first round of groceries and maybe some small items as well, a bed and, you know, some small furniture items and stuff. But then they also connect with you on a weekly basis, see where you're at. They want you to stay clean and sober, but the program is mainly for like people who are chronically homeless and can't live well in like a healthy house situation. That's who I was kind of the low hanging fruit as far as that program, but it actually it gave me some hope, a lot of hope, and some confidence. Like I had a place. Part of their mandate is, or their mantra, I guess, is you know, for people to be healthy and like they need certain things in life, right? Like shelter and a place to call their own. And that's what it gave me. It gave me the confidence to continue on. So I started my second round of treatment in June. I think it was also the third, maybe. And by this time, I had learned about trauma, uh, and I knew what it was like to help other addicts, alcoholics, that because I was there my second time, I kind of looked out for the people that were there for their first time. And that gave me strength for myself, but it also helped me emotionally, just to be there for someone to talk to because I found talking to the counselors at AFM, I had told them things that I had never told anybody before, and that weight was just lifted right off my shoulders, and it allowed me to make room for positive energy and to focus on my recovery, which by this point was very, very important to me. So then I went to, in June, I had also booked a third round of treatment. And I was very confident with my recovery by that time. And then I had met April, and her being an alcoholic, I knew I couldn't be with somebody that didn't know about addictions, hadn't been through it. It's to me, I don't have to explain anything to her. If I'm having a bad day and you know, she knows some of the problems that addicts or alcoholics or people in addiction have, right? So we can talk through things, and I don't have to explain every little detail, and it just makes life so much easier that we know where each other's coming from. And
Yeah,
now
support
today,
groups work so well.
yes, and see, And when I was incarcerated, uh, I still didn't like AA, so I actually was looking for other support groups, and it's not a 12-step program, but it's smart recovery,
Yep, I've heard.
and it's more of a, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I've heard of them. I've read a little bit about them. It's like, um, forgot management resource training. I forgot what it stands for, but it's good. It's psychology based. I know they do
Mhm.
cognitive behavioral
Yeah,
therapy.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. So they teach you how to retrain your brain, I guess, kind of, and to do pros and cons and the way the situation. So that worked for me. But then I kind of got out of touch with that, and then April and I we bought a house, and we work in the same community in northern Manitoba, where there's lots where addiction and abuse and poverty is an everyday thing for the people that live here. And um, she's the NADAP worker, addictions counselor, uh, and she's always running AA meetings, and uh, at I was involved. I go to the meetings um, as a participant, um, and it's amazing to watch uh, people pour their souls out, and how people respond and care, and um, I'm learning the Aboriginal culture, which has always been something I like. I'm a outdoorsy. I believe uh, that we're all connected to the earth, and we're all connected together. Um, mhm. And yeah, so I've been getting more involved in helping with sweats, helping the elders put on sweats and stuff, which is basically um, a place to heal, to um, pray. Uh, I
What's
don't
it, like
want
a
to call
sweat
it
lodge?
church.
Is it a sweat
Yes,
lodge? Okay.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to call it church, but it's that type of
It's a spiritual
spiritual.
experience. So there you go.
Yes, yeah. Um, and that uh, and this is my way of giving back. Like April and I work in the same community, so uh, I know the issues that go on. I have some of the community members work with me. I'm the housing maintenance manager. Uh, so there's usually 3, 4 guys that'll work with me. Uh, we've been trying to take people that graduate from the 21-day treatment program that she puts on. And I'm always open to listen to somebody. I shared my story a couple times at the last treatment programs that have been run. Um, and we live a clean and sober life. We don't allow any drugs, no alcohol. I smoke cigarettes and drink coffee like they're going out of style, but that's about it. That's what I
That's it.
learned from treatment. That's all there is to do in treatment is smoke cigarettes and drink coffee.
Yeah, my last vice. I've been puffing on this. But it's
Yeah,
okay as long as we're sober.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, today I live an amazing life. I just went fishing this morning with a friend from the community and caught a, bu- caught a bunch of pickerels, and I'm doing some yard work around the house, and uh our son's running around here, and we baked some buns and stuff this morning. This is all stuff that I would never do uh in a life of addiction.
It's
And I've
amazing how we
been
get that back.
yes, and you know what? I never thought that I could live a life like this ever again. And I've never really had anything. uh Humble people, we appreciate what we have, and all we want to do is help as much as we can. And my today my son is 21, and he has a 2-year-old son who I get to interact with, and he came out to the house here and stayed because he lives 4 hours away, so it's not easy just to have him here, and they trusted me enough to have my grandson here for a week. My daughter and I have never had a better relationship. And my son, he's still kind of standoffish. He I think his mom may have put the bug in his ear that it might not last forever, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But we get along fantastic. He trusts me with his son. And I've been sober now for in July it'll be 3 years.
Congratulations.
So
That's a long time.
yes,
That's a real
yeah.
long time.
And I never thought in a million years I would have 3 years clean.
Well, you do.
That's the longest. That's the longest, other than the first 8 years of my life. It's the longest I've ever been drug free since I was 8 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a terrible
Yeah.
thing, but I'm very, very happy that you managed to find sobriety.
Yes.
So
Oh,
my
I'm so
last
happy
question,
for it.
yeah, I'm happy for you. I really am. And I was gonna say my last question that I ask everybody is, do you have any advice for people listening and watching?
Well, I'd have to say be kind to yourself. Um, Show yourself self-love. Um, and you have to fight as hard for your recovery as you did for your addiction. If you would walk 1,000 miles to get your last hit, then you need to double that for your recovery. Otherwise, I don't know. It's recovery is not easy, but it's definitely worth it. Yeah.
That's great. So I
And
think that's a good place
yeah,
to wrap it up. How do you feel? How do you think you did?
yeah.
I think it was a good story.
Well, I don't know. I think it was good. Uh, I'm kind of self-conscious about my story because it's not as um, tragic as some, but honestly, we all end up in the same place, I guess, right? It's all about recovery. So
Exactly. We might have
yeah,
different experiences, but it affects us all in the same way. A lot of it drives us
exactly.
all to drugs
Yeah,
or whatever your addiction is.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So thanks for coming on. And for everyone watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below, give us a like. Also subscribe so you can see when we upload new videos. You can find us on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, where it's free there. It's for public videos. Also, you can find us on Facebook, where you can get a lot of resources and information. And you'll see our events tab, and that's where we host our nightly Zoom meetings. Also, check out addicts-anonymous.com. Go there and you'll see a ton of approved literature that we upload weekly. And that's all I have for today. So until next time.